How difficult was it filming that scene? We started building on that relationship in the last film, so it wasn't like it was a fresh, new idea, and I wasn't really nervous. It's obvious that their relationship has moved on, which made it much easier. A lot more has happened between them and they're more comfortable with each other now. They also realize that they now have to part, so there's quite a lot going on underneath, and it's quite a loaded situation. Millions of girls would give their right arm to be in your place, but it almost seems like it's just another day in the office for you. Laughs. I suppose if we were to get a fan off the street and tell them that this is what they'll be doing today, they'd be like, oh, oh, oh. Pretends to get excited. Backquote, but for us, we see each other in a different light and we know each other in a completely different way. Did you ever have a crush on Daniel? I was 9 when I started working on these films and we spend so much time together. We know all each other's good and bad traits. I guess it's more of a family sort of feeling between us. I think that if anything were to happen between us it'd be a little strange and awkward. Laughs. Most of us are all the same age and we've gone through all those teenage years together. And because of that, we've become closer and we give each other support really. Ron's little sister eventually ends up with Harry in The Deathly Hallows, and of course, Premiere Magazine couldn't help but be a real gossip. Let's begin with the most burning topic, which is the famous kiss between Harry and Ginny. Fans have been waiting for so long. How did you prepare for it? It was really weird. Since I've known Daniel Foe so long, and our relationship is purely platonic. We have our own private life, thought are really good friends. Having to kiss him was almost even harder than having to kiss someone I don't know. Honestly, it was awkward. You are one of the actors who were there from the beginning. Of all the different directors who have directed a Potter movie, who were you the closest to? It's hard to say. They were all different. Chris Columbus was the most faithful to the story and to the book's aesthetic, while Alfonso Cuarón introduced a darker dimension. They've been working with David Yates for so long that we eventually acquired a kind of common sensitivity which almost allowed us to foresee what he wanted, to anticipate his ideas. So it has become easier to work with him. Everybody knows that a lot of characters on the Potter side die in the epilogue. How does it feel to see characters disappear when you've known them for 10 years? One thing for sure, the atmosphere would completely change when we would shoot the death scenes. There was a very strong emotional tension, but, in the manner of our characters, we didn't have time to feel sorry for our friends. We shoot these scenes, just like J.K. Rowling had written them, in frenzy of the action. At first, it seemed that his character did not have much strength, but in Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, where he kisses Harry, is when his role in the saga becomes more interesting, and even more so in this last movie. In London, we had a chance to chat with Bonnie Wright, who plays Ginny Weasley, and this is what he told us about. What can you tell us about this first part of HP and the Deathly Hallows? I think for me it will be like watching a whole movie, because I only appear in the beginning, so it is cool to see the adventures that Harry, Ron and Hermione go through, because their friendship is put to the test in this part of the movie and I think it's going to be very different from the others we've done. The second is already full of action, so they will be surprised. What's the hardest thing about playing Ginny Weasley? I think the most important thing is to try to develop the character in each movie and show a different side of her to the audience each time. But the hardest part was trying to make people in the end, in her relationship with Harry, really realize that they were soulmates. But Ginny has had a great evolution in the movies, right? Yes, of course, at first I know she is Ron's little sister, shy and dying for Harry, but she grows and becomes stronger. I think it was in the 5th movie that she found her own voice and she became closer to Ron, Harry and Hermione, because before she was just in the background. And in the Chamber of Secrets, when Voldemort seizes her through the diary, at that moment the first connection with Harry occurs, because she saw what only he has seen and this makes her respect him more and realize the danger that runs. And the director helped me a lot to make her look like a warrior facing her fears, and, when she returns from the Ministry of Magic, she begins to look more like a heroine, fighting evil. You know if the relationship between Ginny and Harry was always on J.K. Rowling, or did it develop as she wrote the books? J.K. Rowling mentioned on a show that she wrote the epilogue, the final part, at the same time that she was writing the second book, so she always knew. No one knew better than her, because she wrote that chapter behind closed doors and decided that Harry and Ginny would be together. In this first part, Harry has to leave Ginny to look for the Horcruxes. How did you prepare for that scene where you didn't know if you would ever see Harry alive again? It was a very intense scene because we all know that he has to go on that journey to beat Voldemort, but I think Ginny takes things in a very mature way. She respects the fact that Harry has to go, is as something that the two of them know has to happen, but they don't want to talk much about it because they know it's a painful separation. I think this scene is very important for their relationship, because in the end they know that, one way or another, they'll be one for the other when it's all over. Was it difficult to film the love scenes with Daniel? Yeah, it was a bit bizarre because we've been together for so long and all of a sudden we have to have these scenes where we kiss and if it ends up a bit cool. But we were more concerned about trying to make it look good and not making ourselves uncomfortable doing it. I remember that in the scene where I kissed him for the first time I was super nervous, but you do what you have to do and nothing happens. I also think that the public sees it from another point of view, just like, OMG they are going to kiss, and we as actors, because it's more than, it's just work. Quote. Dressed in black, Bonnie Wright enters. After looking at Ivana's hair color, Bonnie's doesn't look red. He is rather brown with a slight reddish hint, and very straight. She has a different appeal than Luna, and more confidence, or maybe more boards, when it comes to speaking. What has it meant to you to be in this saga? Obviously it is the most important experience of my life. It has been incredible to be part of something that can only be described as a phenomenon. I assure you that in 50 years, Harry Potter will be in the cinema history books. How do you see the development of Ginny and Harry's relationship? It started in a very innocent way, because Harry is almost adopted by the Weasley family and I am the youngest, so they have known each other for a long time. At first they consider themselves more like brothers, and he thinks of Ginny as the little sister of his best friend. In film 6 is when you really pay attention to each other. Ginny doesn't see him as the chosen one, but because of who he is, and you realize that their relationship is going to be deeper than a school courtship. And I think that is even more evident in the first part of the 7th tape. In a very mature way she knows that he has a mission, a journey to complete, and she lets him finish it. Despite being of the fantasy genre, does the work reflect what is happening in today's society? Yes. Harry Potter reaches such different audiences because he touches on so many current issues that it influences a little girl of 6 or a man of 40. And he has so many ethical messages. Rowling is very good at writing because she doesn't do it in a moral way, but she lets you discover them. You study film and television production. Do you want to work behind the camera? It is more of a course, and I do it to have knowledge of the whole process. It gives me a better idea of everything that is involved in the process of acting. It's a different perspective than acting school gives you, and you also understand everything else that happens during a shoot. Includes scriptwriting, producing, directing, editing, use of the camera. It is not so technical, but rather creative. But really what I love to do is act. It was difficult for your colleagues to be with you. You come from such a large franchise? I do not think so. All of them are very up to date on the universe of cinema and many have already worked in films, in front of or behind the cameras. Although it is great to have worked with a generation of older actors in every way, I am now developing ideas with people of my generation and that is exciting because, in the end, they are the new generation of the film industry. Let's say if you could finance your own project, they are the ones you would choose to work with. How do you compare Harry Potter to Twilight? They are completely different. J.K. Rowling is far superior to that of the author of Twilight, plus the story has many different layers and subplots that touch on very varied themes. Harry Potter is also more universal and reaches audiences of a broader age range, starting from young children. Twilight is more like for American teenagers, especially girls. They are two very different stories, seriously, but I think the great thing about both sagas is that they have motivated children and young people to read. They have opened a whole universe to you. I remember that before children did not read a book of more than 10 pages, and look at them now. What other books do you like? Well, not the ones from Twilight. I love The Dubliners by James Joyce, F. Scott Fitzgerald, and several slightly older authors. She wasn't a fantasy reader until Harry Potter came out. With the experience of someone who has been doing this for years, despite their youth, Bonnie Wright, Ginny Weasley, which is the same, the romantic interest of Harry Potter, sits opposite us in a luxurious hotel in London. She is accompanied by a member of the Warner press team, but she is relaxed and friendly, open and eloquent, as she tells us about her experience of shooting the last film divided into two in the Harry Potter saga, her studies at the university and what the future holds. With these two films, that will put the end to 10 years of Harry Potter. You've been there from the beginning. HWO, do you think you've evolved as a person and your character has done? It was a very special experience for all to become adults in this time, so it was pretty amazing while we were involved in the movies. I think the fact you have been studying and working at the same time made us all grow up pretty quickly, and the responsibility that comes with doing both things is very difficult to carry, but being surrounded by people so inspiring was also very exciting. Do you think that maybe you have missed something from adolescence? I think I have managed to maintain a fairly normal existence all this time, whenever possible. I have gone to school when I could, and have been as involved in it as any friend of mine has ever been. So I think that actually more than missing something, I've been getting more. And that is what you see when you look through these 10 years of Harry Potter? Only now it's over as when you stop and think about what's happened in the last 10 years. It has been a great ride, really. We have all seen our characters develop and we all had new things to do. But we were so young when we started this, we really did not know anything about the film industry. School has been incredible for us. And now it is lovely to look back and realize that. Which movie was the one you as an actress has helped in the whole saga? The question is very difficult, but perhaps the second film is the most important because Ginny has a huge role in the plot. I basically learn the existence of Voldemort, and how dangerous he is, and I think that is when the character begins to understand Harry and his responsibility. And in the fifth really a step forward and that person becomes more open and self-confident, willing to fight for Dumbledore's army and through that the books have grown and grown. With each film, the series has become richer, and I think the icing on the cake has been the last. Although the first part of the seventh book gives you a much smaller role, focusing on the three main characters. It's true, but I think seeing that movie with that environment is so different from the others, with the three main characters as the sole focus of attention is something really interesting and different to the audience. It's a different movie, and full of firsts for the series. But of course, so is also the battle in the second installment, which is a great scene for all, so I've really enjoyed it. With that scene will stay in this first installment? There is a talk at the beginning between Harry and Ginny at the wedding, which I love to do as an actress. It is a scene in which she tells him that she understands what to do, and that she will be there for Harry. Proof that love is not a typical teenage love, but something deeper and more adult, something that can last for real. As you remember your last day of filming of the movie? The truth is it was a very strange experience, because it is a day that you think will never come and suddenly is there. And then try to enjoy to the fullest but do not look as sufficient. Still is not something that really hits you until the next morning from over. What do you miss least of Harry Potter? Smiles. I don't know, because as I intend to continue acting, and it's more what I'm going to miss than what I'm not. But like any job, it has its positives and negatives. Making movies takes a lot of time and many hours of waiting, sometimes that maybe not be so much. Obviously as a child I would tell you that I miss everything. There is a lot of physical work that involves many bumps and bruises that I probably will not miss. Now you're studying film and television. Have you thought maybe in the future spending time to write scripts or direct? It is something that has crossed my mind. I mean, my great passion is acting and I hope to devote to it for many years, but also admire many people who have been able to cross barriers and focus on writing and directing at the same time as acting, and one day I hope to do so as well. If one day I write something that I love and really want to do, then I'll surely take the opportunity to participate in the movies from another angle. Something that maybe you have already written? Yeah, I write. I mean, in class we wrote a lot. Always, as a person, I had a notebook or pad. ND was writing. Even when they are ideas that you know will not turn into a script, keep writing. And what about the future? What do you have planned? Some role in mind? Any scripts you've accepted? Right now I am immersed in the process of meetings and auditions for the next role, one that I really want to do. At the moment we are only talking about it, because it is a big decision when you've been with a character so long and suddenly looking for something new. I think you have to fall in love with the new idea. Any actor, when reading a script, has to fall in love with the history, the character, and play something to which you can add parts of yourself. Which of the many great names who have worked on Harry Potter has impressed you most? There have been so many that will be hard to pick one. The first person, Julie Walters, who plays my mother, was always so adorable and is a person you admire so much. I love Gary Oldman, he's great. Jim Broadbent and Maggie Smith. You probably could name the entire cast. But it was so inspiring to work with these people and be surrounded by them. Cooperatively, I could not pick anyone better to do so. Bonnie Wright won't turn 20 until next year on the 19th of February, but she has definitely attracted plenty of attention. The girl who plays the future Mrs. Harry Potter on screen is stunningly gorgeous. As if the limelight that Potter brought upon her is not enough, she is creating another sensation by dating one of the new Potter actors, who has also worked in Twilight, Jamie Campbell Bower. And the Paps are certainly eating their relationship up. Not only that, this tall and thin actress just signed a modeling contract last October with Next Models, which will ensure she will have a post-Potter career. But before she goes on to tackle modeling, TFI is curious about her experiences as one of Hogwarts warriors and asks her about her behind-the-screen interests. So Ginny, Luna and Neville are leading a resistance against the Death Eater's tyranny at Hogwarts. What was that like to play? It clearly takes courage. This is the thing those three characters step up to, beginning in the fifth film, with the Ministry of Magic and Dumbledore's army, and they really take on the responsibility. They're the only ones left continuing this resistance. Obviously Hogwarts becomes a completely different place, it becomes incredibly threatening and stands for everything it didn't stand for before, such safety, and everything we had there is completely gone. Because we have new headmasters and all these new rules. Are they going to succeed? There's an amazing scene in the second part, where obviously Harry, Ron and Hermione return to Hogwarts, and the other three have made this kind of hideout and haven, continuing Dumbledore's army in their own little way. I think that their dedication is pretty amazing, to keep that going, and I think that's why people kind of love the three of those characters, really. You've shot the epilogue. Have you gone through an aging process? Yes, it was a very bizarre thing to go through, really, to be able to have that chance to be suddenly made up to look mid-30s. It was an exciting day but bizarre. Obviously, for me, it almost felt like a real cycle, because I started on that same platform, at the same age that Lily Potter, the youngest daughter of Ginny and Harry, was, so it's almost literally like looking back at myself. How does it feel to have 3 kids? The 3 kids who played the children they just epitomized all of us, when we were that age, so it was lovely to look back. They were so excited on the day, it was a massive dream come true, and they'd been through such a massive process of auditioning. I think it was probably the most auditions any person has been through to get a part in a film. In the auditioning process, Dan and I sat down with different children and talked to them, because obviously the dynamic is incredibly important, to try and portray the idea that they are this family unit, that they've spent every living moment together, since they were babies in their hands to how they are now. It was challenging to get that warmth with someone you've barely met, and some children don't want to get close to someone they don't know. But they understood it was incredibly important to make the scene work, so they were very giving to the situation. The structure of the last two films are different. What was the biggest difference for you in filming it? It was weird when we first were given this idea that there would be two parts. I was very interested to see how that would be done, but obviously, because it's still one book, it's not like we're filming two books, all at once. It was still one book, in my mind, so the actual story all connects, so we've always been used to filming everything all over the place, like any film is filmed. In that perspective, it wasn't too difficult to differentiate the first part and the second part. Through your relationship with Jamie, you've seen the Twilight phenomenon. Do you think Harry Potter is better? I think they're two completely different sort of stories, really. I think the way that Joe Rowling has written it is incredible, and personally, for me, it's much richer than the stories of Twilight, because it's from a much more mythological, historical element that's just a bit deeper, and I think they've got different elements. Have you read Twilight? No, I haven't. What's your favorite book outside Harry Potter? Oh, hundreds. I studied English literature at a level, so I was always a massive reader. I love Dubliners by James Joyce and F. Scott Fitzgerald. I read Harry Potter and I love it as much as the next fan. I've always read it as it came out, but for me, I've probably haven't read any other fantasy-based book other than Harry Potter. It's all going to end next year. How do you feel about it? I remember starting in 2009 and being, God, this is the last time we're ever going to start back on a Harry Potter. It was always at the back of your mind, that although you didn't want to think about it too much, you knew that that ending was going to come, and there's a sense this was coming to the end. That actually made me kind of, right, I've got to experience everything, make every day amazing, and just take it all in, because knowing that it wasn't ever going to come around again was kind of bizarre. You never think that day's going to come, and then it does, and you're like, damn, I don't know, it's bizarre. But I think luckily, with things like film, you're burnt into celluloid, so if you want to watch it in 10 years' time, you can reflect back on it. But we haven't yet finished, we've still got the movies to hand over to the audience, so not until mid-next year will it finally be finished. Didn't you study production for TV and film? Yeah, well, I always wanted to continue studying. I always loved being at school and every creative side of film, but for me this course is pretty much an interesting way to look at the different elements that go into acting. I've completely begun to respect every time and every moment of craft that goes into films, studying, scriptwriting, screenwriting, directing, editing. It's not really technical, my course, it's at an art school, so it's got a very creative, sort of finer arts, base to it. But really my love lies in acting, so it's given me a completely different perspective to it. It has enriched it in a different way than a drama school would. Hair red as fire and a non-stop crush on Harry Potter. That is Ginny Weasley, played by Bonnie Wright, 19. CG. Met the actress in London and did some investigations. Does Bonnie look like her famous alter ego in real life? After the 2 movies of the latest Harry Potter book, it's really over. What are you going to miss the most? I still cannot believe that there will never be another Harry Potter movie after this one. Harry Potter has been a part of my life for over 10 years. I will miss playing Ginny. Walking around the amazing sets, like the Great Hall of Hogwarts, I'm missing it already. But fortunately I will be able to talk about the movie with fans and journalists for a while. Ginny's character has really changed during the movie sequence. What did you learn? A lot. For example, I've learnt to enjoy every single day. If I look back, I know I didn't realize how special everything was. The talented cast was so inspirational. This has taught me to work hard. You will not accomplish your dreams by doing nothing. You should do something what you love and what makes you happy. Life is too much fun to fill it up with boring people and a stupid job. Would you, just like Ginny, fall for a guy like Harry? Daniel is a good friend of mine, so that's hard to say. But Ginny and Harry, especially in the last movie, are really meant for each other. They can be themselves when they are together, which is very important in a relationship. My friend supports me in everything I do, even though it's weird for him when fans ask me about my relationship with Harry Potter. Fortunately, we can laugh about it. Ginny often wears boring school uniforms, while you were chosen Best Glamorous British Celeb from 2010. Is fashion important for you? I think very carefully about what I wear and think it's so lovely to get dressed up for a premiere. But prom dresses, crazy hairdos and makeup are meant for the red carpet. When I'm at home, I wear casual clothes. Just like today, I wear a simple jeans and a vintage James Dean t-shirt. I don't feel that glamorous while wearing this, but this subtle style suits me the best. I adore a nice dress by Prada or Alexander McQueen, but I prefer high street shops such as New Look and Topshop. London is dangerous for your wallet. Your red hair really shows on screen, but are they real? Yes, 100%. Ginny's hair color is mine and I'm proud of it. Not a lot of people are natural redheads. It makes me special. And yes, it really stands out. I think it's a pity if girls get insecure because of their red hair. You should be proud of what makes you unique. Of course, sometimes I'm insecure as well, but then I realize that I look like this because of a reason. It's meant to be and it suits me. Ginny is very close with her family. Are you that close with yours? We've heard that your brother helped you with getting the role. Yes, and I can't thank him enough. I read the books and saw some similarities between me and Ginny. So he said I had to do auditions. Thanks, bro. I can't live without my family and their support. I used to fight with my parents a lot, which I guess is normal when you're a teenager. Now they're my biggest fans. What are your post-Potter plans? Currently I'm in second grade of my study film and television production and I really want to finish it. But if I can get a really nice role, I'll probably choose for that, and school will go on hold. Acting is my biggest love, but I don't want to think too much ahead. I'll see what will cross my road. Hollywood? Sure, for a role, but London will always be my home base for a hardcore British girl as I am.